There's one number you need to know before anything else about this Birmingham final, and it isn't a ranking or a set count. It's 12. 0 and 12. That's Alex Eala's career record against Czech opponents. She has played 12 professional matches against players from the Czech Republic on hard courts, on clay, on grass, indoors, outdoors, against former Grand Slam champions and against teenagers ranked outside the top 200, and she has lost every single one. The losses stretch back to 2020 to an ITF event on the Canary Islands, and they have followed her through every stage of her development. Anastasia Zarica, Tereza Martinkova, Marie Buzkova twice, Katerina Siniakova, Linda Fruvertova right here in Birmingham last year, Barbara Krejcikova on Wimbledon Centre Court, Marketa Vondrousova in Montreal, Tereza Valentova twice, Ekaterina Alexandrova Linda Noskova 2-6, 0-6 at Indian Wells, and most recently Karolina Machova 0-6, 2-6 in the round of 16 at the Miami Open in March. So when you tell me that the 2026 Birmingham Classic final is Alex Eala against Nikola Bartunkova, a 20-year-old Czech who has never played a professional grass court tournament before this week, my first question is not tactical. My first question is what that number does to a player's head. Because Eala knows the record, she's been asked about it in press conferences. She's smiled through it, deflected it, acknowledged it. But 0 and 12 is not a quirky stat anymore. It's a pattern that has lasted 6 years across 4 different continents, and now it sits directly between her and the first grass court title of her career. I'll come back to that because the number alone doesn't explain what happens on court. What happens on court is shaped by how these two players arrived at this final, and those journeys contain something far more interesting than the record suggests. Start with Bartunkova. She walked into Edgbaston Priory Club this week having never played a sanctioned match on grass. Not in juniors at the WTA level, not in qualifying, not in a tune-up event. Her first professional grass court match was Monday's opener against Harriet Dart, and she lost the first set 3-6. Think about that for a second. She lost the opening set of her very first grass court match to a British player on home soil, and the natural expectation is that she folds. A 20-year-old with no surface experience, ranked 69, against a veteran who has been playing on this stuff since she was 13. The script writes itself, and it ends in 2 sets. Except Bartunkova took the second set 6-3, and then won the decider 7-5. And she didn't do it by grinding. She did it by playing the kind of tennis that made Anastasia Potapova say, after facing her in Rome qualifying 3 weeks ago, "This girl is so good. She has it all. She serves well, moves well, plays offensive, defensive. She can do it all." Bartunkova came forward. She hit drop shots on grass in her first competitive match on the surface. She served her way out of trouble. She played like someone who had decided before the first ball was struck that grass was going to be her court, too. After Dart came Gabriela Knudsen in straight sets, 6-4, 7-6. Then Mika Stojavljevic, a British teenager who pushed her to a third-set tiebreak before Bartunkova pulled away 7-4 in the breaker. Then Ashlyn Kruger in the semis, 6-4, 7-6, with Bartunkova losing just 9 of her 48 first-serve points. 4 matches, 2 of them 3-setters, 0 losses on a surface she had never touched. That is not supposed to happen. And the reason it's happening is the same reason she upset Belinda Bencic at the Australian Open in January, and the same reason she beat Madison Keys in the 3rd round at Rome. Barty Kvitova's game doesn't depend on surface conditions the way most players' games do. She generates her own offense. She comes to the net. She won 17 of 26 net approaches against Bencic, which is an absurd ratio for a player making her Grand Slam debut. She hits drop shots from both wings. She redirects pace rather than absorbing it. And she does all of this at 6 foot tall with a serve that creates angles shorter players can't replicate, and with a competitive composure that belies the fact that 18 months ago she was ranked 537 in the world. Halfway through a 6-month suspension for a contaminated supplement that her family spent thousands of euros proving she had never knowingly taken. That backstory matters here, not as sentiment, but as context for what she has become since. Bartunkova returned from that suspension and reached a WTA 500 semi-final in Guadalajara as a wild card. She qualified for the Australian Open and beat a top 10 player. She entered Rome as a lucky loser, her fourth attempt at landing a lucky loser spot this spring, and beat a 17th seed. She describes her style by invoking Federer and Alcaraz. "All the more aggressive players," she told reporters in Melbourne. "That's my inspiration since I was a kid." She trains at the same club in Prague as Machakova, and the resemblance is not accidental. There's the same willingness to play ugly beautiful tennis, the same appetite for risk, the same refusal to play a neutral ball when an attacking one is available. This is the opponent IGA faces tomorrow. Not a journeywoman. Not a player whose Czech passport is the most relevant thing about her. A player who has spent this entire week solving a surface in real time and who has enough physical talent and tactical imagination to do it. Now, IGA's week in Birmingham has been, on its own terms, genuinely impressive. She arrived as the top seed and has played like one. She opened with a 6-0, 6-2 destruction of Priscilla Hahn that set a tone, clean ball striking, early court positioning, returns that turned Hahn's service games into problems from the first point. She handled Aliona Fallet in the second round, then beat Elena Korneva 6-2, 7-5 in the round of 16 in a match where the second set tightened but never truly threatened her. Magda Linette fell 6-3, 6-2 in the quarters. And then yesterday in the semi-final against Rebecca Mazarova, IGA navigated rain delays and a second set wobble to win 6-2, 4-6, 6-3, her first three-setter of the tournament. Handled with the composure of someone who has been in tight grass court matches before and knows what they feel like. That Mazarova win matters beyond the scoreline because of what Mazarova brought. A 6 feet, 1 inch frame, genuine serve power, and the kind of baseline depth that pinned IGA behind the baseline for stretches of the second set. IGA lost that set 4-6, and for about 40 minutes, you could see the version of her that dropped first-round exits at Roland Garros and Stuttgart earlier this spring. The version that doesn't trust her offense and starts guiding the ball instead of striking it. But then the third set came and the other IGA reappeared. She broke early. She used her left-handed serve to open up Mazarova's backhand side. She stepped inside the baseline on returns and took the ball before it sat up. She won 6-3, and the manner of that closing set was more revealing than any scoreline from the earlier rounds. So, this is a final between two players who have each been tested this week and who have each found a way through. And the temptation is to turn this into a simple story about the Czech curse. Go make the entire preview about whether Ella can finally beat a player from the Czech Republic. I understand why that narrative exists. 0-12 is remarkable. But I think it obscures what actually matters about this match. Because the relevant question is not whether Czech players possess some mystical quality that Ella can't handle. The relevant question is what those 12 losses have in common, and the answer is complicated. Some of those defeats came against genuinely elite players. Krejcikova, Muchova, Vondrousova, those are Grand Slam champions. Losing to them is not a curse. It's a ranking reality. Noskova at Indian Wells, 2-6, 0-6. That's a player who was on a tear and would have beaten most players in Ella's ranking range. Alexandrova in Abu Dhabi, again, a top 30 player on hard court. A surface where Alexandrova's serve is devastating. Strip away the losses to clearly superior opponents and what you're left with are the ones that feel more like genuine pattern breaks. The 2 losses to Valentova. The loss to Fruhvirtova here in Birmingham last year. The Bartunkova loss on an ITF event. Those are the matches where the Czech factor starts to feel like something more than coincidence, and when you look at those matches closely, there's a recurring theme. In each one, Ella competed well for stretches but lost her intensity at specific moments. The Fruhvirtova match last year is the sharpest example. Ella won the first set, leveled through the second, and then collapsed 1-6 in the decider. She didn't lose because Fruhvirtova was better. She lost because something in the match slipped away from her at a moment when the pressure was supposed to be on her opponent. Is Bartunkova a player who can trigger that same kind of slippage? Possibly. But She's also a fundamentally different proposition from most of those Czech opponents. She's not a power baseline player like Noskova or Alexandrova who can blast Eala off the court with sheer pace. She's not a defensive puzzle box like Buzkova who smothers Eala's rhythm with consistency. Bartunkova is a shot maker, an improviser, a net rusher, a player who will hit a drop shot at 3-all in a deciding set because that's the shot she sees. And against that kind of opponent, the dynamic changes entirely. Against Bartunkova, Eala won't face the relentless baseline pressure that has historically suffocated her against Czech opponents. She'll face chaos, she'll face a player who might try to serve and volley at 30-all. A player who will hit a backhand slice into the net one point and a forehand winner down the line the next. That style of play is actually more comfortable for Eala than the alternative because it gives her rhythm breaks, moments where she can reset between points, where the pattern of play shifts enough that she can find pockets of control. Eala's return game, which has been the foundation of her entire grass court career, is designed to exploit exactly the kind of second serve vulnerability that Bartunkova showed against Kruger in the semis, where her first serve percentage sat at 55%. When Bartunkova misses first serves, and she will miss them because her first serve is a weapon she swings at aggressively, Eala will have opportunities to step in, take the second serve early, and redirect it with her left-handed angles. The ad-court return in particular is where Eala's game can do damage against a right-handed server. She can pull Bartunkova's second serve wide into the forehand and then use the cross-court angle to open the court. She's done this all week. She did it against Mazarova. She did it against Cornet. She'll look to do it here. But here is what complicates any prediction. Bartunkova has been in tighter spots than Eala in this tournament and has found her way out every time. She came back from a set down against Dart in her opener. She survived a third-set tiebreak against Stojanovic. She held her nerve in a second-set tiebreak against Kruger. Every close match she's won. That's not luck across 4 rounds. That's a player who is currently in a competitive zone where pressure clarifies rather than clouds. And she's done it on a surface she's never played before. I keep returning to this because I think people are underrating how unusual it is. Grass court tennis is supposed to be the hardest surface to learn. The footwork is different. The bounce is different. The way you have to move through the ball on low volleys, the way you have to adjust your split-step timing because the ball arrives faster after the bounce. This is supposed to take years of accumulated reps. Bartunkova has had 5 days. And she's in the final. That tells me something about her adaptability that goes beyond tennis mechanics. It tells me she trusts her hands. She trusts her instincts. She doesn't need to understand grass the way a specialist does because her game isn't felt on surface-specific advantages, it's built on ball striking quality and competitive nerve. Grass helps her serve. Grass helps her net approaches. Grass rewards her drop shots. She's discovered all of this in real time and she's playing with the freedom of someone who has nothing to lose and everything to discover. Eala's situation is the opposite. She has everything to lose. She's the top seed. She's the player with grass court experience, 15 wins and 8 losses on the surface. An Eastbourne final last year where she held 4 championship points against Maya Joint. She's the higher-ranked player. She's supposed to win this. And she's supposed to do it against a Czech opponent, which brings us back to the number that started this entire conversation. I think what decides this final is not the Czech record. It's not the serve statistics. It's not even the tactical matchup, which on paper slightly favors Eala because her return game is more polished than any opponent Bartunkova has faced this week. What decides it is who handles the weirdness of this specific match better. Because this match is weird. These two were doubles partners 3 days ago. They stood next to each other in the warm-up. They played points together against Dart and Lumsden. They lost together 6-4, 2-6. Match tiebreak 9-11. A tight loss that required 2+ sets of shared court time. They've seen each other's service motion from 5 feet away. They've communicated between points. They've strategized together. And now on Sunday, they walk to opposite ends of the court and try to take apart the very game they just spent time learning to complement. That shared knowledge is a wild card. In doubles, you learn things about your partner that you'd never learn watching film. You learn how they breathe when they're nervous. You learn whether they look at the ball toss or the server's racket. You learn where their eyes go when they're about to go down the line. Both of these players carry that information into the final, and neither of them can unknow it. If I had to place a pick, I'd lean toward Eala. Not because she's better on current form. It's closer than the rankings suggest. Not because she'll break the Czech curse, which is a narrative that has no predictive value. I'd lean toward Eala because her path through this tournament has been cleaner, because she has played grass-court tennis at this level before and knows what the final weekend nerves feel like. And because Bartunkova's extraordinary week might finally bump against the wall of having played 4 matches in 5 days on a surface her body hasn't calibrated to. Grass takes a physical toll that other surfaces don't. The footing is uncertain. The recovery between points is harder. And Bartunkova has been extending matches 2-3 setters, 2 tie breaks in a way that accumulates stress in the ankles and the knees and the stabilizer muscles that grass specifically punishes. But I'd hold that pick loosely, because Bartunkova has done something this week that no amount of analysis can adequately account for. She has walked onto an unfamiliar surface with a style of play that shouldn't work this quickly, and she has made it sing. She has served her way out of trouble, volleyed her way to winners, hit drop shots that died on grass the way they're supposed to when you've practiced them for years, and she hasn't practiced them on grass for years. She's done it in days. If Eala wins, it will be because she trusted her return game, stayed patient through the chaos of Bartunkova's shot-making, and closed out the tight moments that Bartunkova has been winning all week. If Bartunkova wins, it will be because she took the logic of her own game, attack, improvise, refused to be passive, and applied it to one more match, one more surface, one more opponent who is supposed to know better. Either way, the Birmingham Final offers something rarer than a title match. It offers 2 players at the same age at roughly the same stage of their careers asking the same question from opposite sides of the net. Can the thing I've built hold up when everything around it says it shouldn't? Eala asks it about the Czech record. Bartunkova asks it about the grass. Both of them will get an answer by Sunday evening. And whatever that answer is, it will have been earned in a week that neither of them will forget.